Printing or plotting a layout in AutoCAD is fairly straightforward. There's a few ways we can get to the dialog box. We can either right click on the Layout tab and go to Plot, or we can go to the Output tab on the ribbon menu and go to Plot here, or we can go to the red A application button and go to Print and then Plot. Whichever way you choose to do it, you will get this plot dialog box. The first thing on here is a drop down for the page setup. Now there's nothing in here at the moment, but once we've set this up and actually printed something, we will get an option in here called Previous, which is really useful. The next one is to set the printer, and it's worth noting that if you've got a layout that is larger than the printer that you've got available, for example, if I choose my Canon printer, it can't print at A0, which is what my page on my layout is set at. I will get a warning to say that it's not supported. So for this example, I'm just going to choose to print to the AutoCAD PDF printer. Once I've selected that, I can then move down and you can see that my paper size is set for my layout, so that's okay. Then I get an option to choose the plot area, which is already set to layout. My plot offset is already set for me. The scale, of course, I want to leave at 1:1 because that's my paper size and I want that to be A0. And the next thing is to just make sure the orientation of the paper is correct, and you can see that there's a little button here that will extend out my dialog box, and I can choose whether it's going to be in portrait or landscape, and at the moment it's already set to landscape. Now up here we've got a plot style table, and I'm not going to talk too much about this because quite frankly it's very rare that you'd need to change any settings in there. This really goes back to the old days of having to use a plotter instead of a printer for large format drawings. And in here we could tell the plotter to use a certain colour for a line compared to the one represented on screen. Quite often the old plotters, as you can see here, only had a small selection of pens available, and so you may want to remap the colours according to the pens that you've got available for your plotter. Moving across then to preview, we can get a preview of what we're going to get printed. Once we're happy, we can press escape and then go to OK, and that will then print. And as I mentioned before, if we then decide to do a second print, then instead of having to set up everything again, we can now just use this previous plot option, and that sets everything back up just how it was for the first print. Now if you find that some of your objects are not actually printing, the best thing to do is go to the Layers Properties panel and just make sure that all of your layers that you wanted are actually set to print, because if they've got a little no entry sign next to them, then these layers will not actually appear on your print.